Understand the plan? Great. The objective, Mr. Harris, in a nice, loud, clear voice. This is when you go home to mom and mom asks you over macaroni and cheese, what did you learn today? This is what you're learning. Go.
We will explain how the French and Indian War caused Britain and the colonies to start fighting.
Good. We will explain how the French and Indian War, this war, caused Britain and the colonists to start fighting. That's the goal today. Now, and we're going to start thinking about, are the British, whose side are you on? Are you on the British side or the colonist side? Ooh, I'm on the British side, so we'll talk about that. Are the British being unfair? We'll see. All right, here's my hook. So now the teacher books, they tell me that I need to have something that's going to hook you in, that's going to excite you, that's going to make the lesson come to life. Why do I care about the French and Indians? Are you ready for this? You know who these people are? Can you kind of see with the crappy screen? Who's this? And who's this? Okay, do you know what happened at the club that one night a year ago? You can kind of see like this trash. Chris Brown and Drake got into a terrible fight. It was at a New York City like hot club, there are women, there's music, everybody's having a great time. Mr. Anderson, look up here. Drake and Chris Brown fight. Now, this guy right here is Tony Parker. He's the point guard for the San Antonio Spurs, you know him, Mr. Anderson? And so he was friends, or is friends, with Drake. That's his buddy, that's his homie. So Drake and Tony Parker are hanging out at the club. Drake and Chris Brown get into the fight. And what happens to Tony Parker? Yeah, he's got to try to help out his buddy, right? You know, like you're friends with Cantrell, Mr. Banks is starting to get into a fight, and you're like, oh God, I don't really want to fight. I'm just sipping on my drink, having a good time at the club, but now I got to help out Mr. Anderson, right? Has that ever happened to you? Where you have to like jump in for your friend. You don't even want to jump in, but you just got to.
It's fake.
What's fake? What's fake? What's fake? Well, I'm gonna do it for my friend, but I don't really want to get into this fight.
Will he help you?
Yeah, because you have to do it for friendship, but you're kind of bored with it. You're like, oh my God, I don't want to actually fight.
So you and Mr. Harris had a fight, right? So then, hey, cool, you and Cool Sam's buddies, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Christian, this is my buddy. Oh, okay.
Cool
Go on.
Sam's for you?
Yeah. Well, so that's what I'm saying. I guess you have to do it. So, Tony Parker has to jump in for Drake. He doesn't want to. And then he almost loses his eye. He had to go have eye surgery because one of the bottles broke and hit him in the eye. And so Tony Parker's like, damn, I really wish I didn't have to do that. That has to do with the French and Indian War. You ready? All right. The French and Indian War. Ooh, I always get confused with this. Remember how I said Britain and England are same? The French and Indian War is not actually a war between the French and Indians. They're not actually fighting each other. The French and Indians are fighting the colonists in Britain. It's just something you gotta memorize. The French and Indian War was when the colonists in Britain fought the French and Indians. Britain does not want to fight in this war. Britain is like Tony Parker. But because they're friends, because they own the colonists, they feel like they have to get into the fight. How did that book make sense? All right, come over here. Remember, not penises, countries. Okay. Sorry, Miss Cannon. Don't film that part.
Too late.
Anyway, back here. Over here, the 13 colonies exist, right? They want more and more land. And so then what ends up happening is they start fighting the French and Indians for the land. England feels like they have to take the colonist side. So things are growing great. They fight over the land. Who wins the war? You can read that over there. Who wins it? Britain and the colonists win. So you're thinking, great, things are great, things are happy. But there's a problem. Wars cost. What do you think you have to pay for in a war? Guns, weapons, food, uniforms. This is expensive. So even though Britain comes and helps out Drake, even though Britain comes out and helps out the colonists, they had to spend a lot of money. And so they're angry, they're pissed. So they have to do two things. The king thinks about this, the king of Britain, and he does two things. And these are the only two things we're learning for today, and we're done. So Miss Bowens, listen closely. First thing they do is the Proclamation of 1763. Have you ever heard this word before proclamation?
Yeah.
What is that? It's like a Yeah, it's like it's like when you declare, when you say something, you declare it. And why do you think it's called 1763? Yeah. The king says the colonists cannot go west of the Appalachian Mountains anymore. The colonists cannot go west of the Appalachian Mountains. These are the Appalachian Mountains, these really beautiful green triangles. Why does the king say that? Why does the king suddenly, all right, they have this war, it costs a lot of money, and the king tells the colonists they can't go west anymore? Why? He doesn't want the colonists to go west anymore because he doesn't want them to keep fighting with the French and Indians. He doesn't want to pay for this war anymore. So he says, do not go west. How do the colonists feel about that? Yeah, they're like, I want to go where I want to go. I want more land. Miss Howard, I love that you're asking questions. Track Miss Howard. Louder.
Mr. Jarrell,
Yep.
when he was arguing with Dr. Holgrove, she said that the colonists won that land in the war.
Yeah, so the colonists get the land. The colonists are like, I want more land. Let's go take the land. Dr. H is absolutely right. Great memory. But Britain's like, I don't want to fight anymore. So just stay in your colonies. And so the colonists become angry. There's one other thing that Britain does, the king does. He does something called the quartering act. The king thinks and goes, okay, I've got all these troops out there. Where are they going to stay? Who's going to pay for them to stay over in the colonies? Who's going to pay? The colonists. The King of England tells the colonists that they need to find homes for the British soldiers. How do the colonists feel?
Angry.
That's all we're learning today. We're going to practice with this, but that's all we're learning today. Stop. I know it's hot. I know it's second period. Let's go. The colonists come over for two reasons. They're feeling excited. Then they get into this war. And who fights in the war? Good. They fight this war. The war costs a lot of money. The king decides to do two things. He does the... Yeah, I actually want you to say them out loud 3 times. It helps you memorize it. So crisply and cleanly say Proclamation of 1763. Proclamation of 1763. Thank you, Miss Lee. 2 more times. The Proclamation of 1763. Proclamation of 1763. And the Proclamation of 1763. Proclamation of 1763. And he does the Quartering Act. The Quartering Act. This makes the colonists become angry. And what's going to happen on Wednesday or Thursday? What's going to happen? Good. Who's going to start fighting? Against. Good. So, that's a lot of information. We're going to practice with it for the next 50 minutes. We've got to memorize it. First things first, you're going to take down the key notes. Open up your blue folders.